and welcome to OASIS University. My name is Neville, and I'm one of the design directors here with Smithers OASIS North America. You know, we've gone through an awful lot in the last couple of years, and in our floral industry in particular, we've seen so many ups and downs, so many closures, so many beautiful flowers having to go to the garbage because there was no one there to buy them and we couldn't get them to the markets to sell them. And it's been so sad and it's been so upsetting. But through it all, we've continued to share love through the beauty of flowers. And that's been a glorious thing for so many people. We've reached out and hugged people with flowers when we couldn't be there ourselves. And that's something that we should all be very fortunate and very thankful for, that we were able to do that. Now that we've made it through, I'd like to show you some different ways that we can be a little more profitable during this season, spring season, coming up to Easter and Mother's Day and all the seasons after that, by showing some different design ideas, a couple of tricks to the trade, and even some ways that you yourself can be a better expert in the field. So why don't you sit back, get yourselves a cup of tea or the drink of your choice, and enjoy yourselves for the next half, 3/4 of an hour with me here at OASIS University. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to start with some really simple things here that sometimes we, even the most experienced, tend to forget how easy and fun these things can be and how profitable they can be also. This time of year we're using a lot of different branches, pussy willows, forsythia, forced branches, that sort of thing, all over the place, and they make great armatures. I've just used this beautiful bowl from Smithers OASIS. They come in a variety of sizes, and I've just inserted lots of pussy willow branches, some in the vase, some out of the vase, even the stumps. I've just taken them and just dropped those right in there. And that creates that grid work, that armature to hold everything in place so beautifully. Adding just a little bit of the bear grass as well. I said bear grass, dear. Put your hearing aids on. By using just a little bit of that bear grass, it has a lot of whimsy and movement to it. Be careful if you have a cat, because of course cats will chew that and then they'll do the backward dance and give you a present when they throw it all up. And you're going to be careful sometimes. There's a lot of issues about cats and flowers and plants these days, but I really don't want to get into that because it gives me hives. But look up different plants and flowers that are cat friendly, and for goodness sake, don't let your cat go outside because it's things up there that'll kill it for sure. Anyway, now back to the matter at hand. I'm just adding a little bit of Gypsophila, that beautiful baby's breath. I love baby's breath, and you know, sometimes baby's breath has had really a bad run for a while, you know? People don't see a value in it. They say, well, it's just baby's breath. But you know, we couldn't get baby's breath for quite a little while there because it just wasn't available. There wasn't enough grown. It takes so long to grow it, and there just wasn't any. And a couple of people were just saying, I can't believe you can't get baby's breath. Well, believe it or not, it's true. But we can now. But it has a value. Every stem, every leaf, every bit of stuff that you put in a floral arrangement has a value to it. And we have to remember that. We have to remember that because people devalue some of these beautiful little things. That's 1,000 flowers in there already when you think about it. Glorious. I'm just going to add some of this beautiful lily grass as well. I love that. Again, to add lots of movement and texture. I love using lots of greenery in designs, but keeping it really clean in a spring arrangement by not putting too much in sometimes, because there's not as much greenery in with some of the spring flowers early on. They're just starting like everything else. Go in there, people are watching. There, see how simple that is? That's already pretty. You know, quite often I'll do this sort of thing just for myself, just to have, because I don't need a whole lot of other things in with it to satisfy my need for something beautiful. By using something a little different now and then in a design, you can create that interest, that what is that sort of appeal from people. And this is a really cool stem, the Trichdianthus. They're really cool. I did have a lady call me one day and said, how could you possibly charge for a bunch of moss on the end of sticks? I thought, oh dear. And I said, well, it's not moss, honey, it's called Trichdianthus. I don't care what kind of moss it is, but I don't want it. I said, okay. So educate your clients at the same time and let them know that you're using something that's really different. Do you ever stop and just smell the flowers when you're working with them? I do. And I stop and look at them and enjoy them. I don't care how busy I am. And sometimes I am so busy I don't know whether I'm frontwards or backwards. But I will stop and look at them and enjoy each of those stems for what they are, because they are beautiful. They're just beautiful, aren't they? And you know, I think about how honored and blessed I am as a florist that I get to share love through the beauty of these flowers with people, whether it's the first time they've ever received flowers on their way into this plant world, or as they're leaving at the other end, at the end of their lives. We get to do flowers for those people, to celebrate their lives, to celebrate and to enjoy the beauty that's around them. How blessed is that, you know? Don't ever take it for granted that we're just shoving a bunch of flowers in a bowl for whoever, because those whoever's are very special people that have very special lives, and it's a real blessing to be able to do that for everyone. Hyacinths, don't you just smell spring. Absolutely glorious. Some people don't like the smell of hyacinths. That's okay. I don't like the taste of cilantro, but I'm not saying it's not a bad thing, but I just don't like it. But I love hyacinths. So if you know that they're not adverse to fragrance, of course ask them those questions. Suggest some hyacinths in the bouquet. I like to keep this just clean with just a little bit of hydrangea in it and these white hyacinths because they're so pretty. And if they have a problem with scent, put some tulips in it or something else. Don't put something that's got a heavy fragrance with it. So simple, so pretty, isn't it? Just kept with those flowers in that armature. Now that could go on delivery. That's not going to go anywhere at all, you know, at all. Now another way you can do something in a bubble bowl. A lot of people have an issue with that. They want to put the flowers down inside, which is fine. I've done that a lot. Just tucked them inside and made an interior design. Nothing wrong with that at all. It's absolutely beautiful. But if you want some height and some movement to it, and you want to keep it a little fun upper style design. Huh, that's a new word, isn't it? So, take a piece of aluminum wire. Aluminum wire from Smithers Oasis. It comes in a variety of colors. Beautiful. It's very malleable, as you can see. I'm just going to wind it around my fingers here as many times or as few times as you want to, because I'm going to create an armature to sit on the inside. Boy, that's making a lot of noise, isn't it? Down there. That's better. So once I've made a length of this, and when you're doing this, you should measure it first. I didn't here because I didn't, but measure it so you know how much you're going to have to charge for. So if you used a half a roll, charge for half a roll, and then get your proper cutters. Where are my cutters? Don't do that. Don't have my cutters. So there, that aluminum wire is very soft. It really doesn't hurt those wire cutters, those stem cutters after all. So I've just created a bit of an armature that I can sit right atop that container. And in it goes. I love doing things live to tape. I do a lot of things for TV and whatnot, and I do it live to tape, so it doesn't get rehearsed at all. So if I mess it up, well, I mess it up. That's all there is to it. So I'm going to use these flowers. That's what I'll use. Love these. Look at that. Again, an assortment of spring, but a bit more color. But once this is in, this is going to support all those lovely stems. So you can drop your hyacinth right in, and it's going to stay in place. It better have, because people are watching here. So you just sit there. That's the stuff. You go right in there. And I'm going to put a little bit of this grevillea. I love this too. Different foliage. This has such a great texture to it. Very wispy texture. And you can add as many or as few stems as you want to this design, because it's your world. If that's what you want to do, do it. And when you make these armatures, of course, you can do these ahead of time. You can have those done weeks ahead, just with some curls of wire, put in the containers, so when an order comes in for them, at Easter or Mother's Day or whenever, you can just whip those together very quickly and have it done. Now, a style of design that I'm seeing a lot now is that I almost want to call it shut your eyes and put it wherever it lands in the design, but there's a reason to every placement as well, because you want to be able to show all those pretty flowers and see them. Look at this ranunculus. Glorious, glorious. And I'm using some more premium flowers, like the ranunculus, which are a little bit more expensive than others. In some places, they're a whole lot more expensive than others, but you're putting those in with some lesser priced flowers. I had a lady call me the other day and said, I don't want those junk flowers. I said, I don't know what you mean by junk flowers. She said, junk ones, the garbage flowers. You know, carnations and daisies, they're garbage. That offended me so terribly. I didn't get the order because I had to tell her to go away, because it offended me, because no flower is junk. Look at those beautiful carnations. How can you call that junk? How can you call that garbage? You know, it's to each their own. You know, if it just wasn't her taste, which I said, well, that's a matter of opinion. I said, I don't think flowers are garbage or junk. They're food for the soul. But she was having none of that. And so she was having none of me. But the flowers are all beautiful. By using some of the more premium flowers, more expensive flowers, just by putting them in a spot where people can see them a bit more and you can appreciate them, you can use the other flowers to fill in spaces otherwise. Now, if you want to put a little greenery in with it, you can. A little more if you wanted to. Leather leaf. I love using greenery, and a lot of people have said over the years, I don't use that much greenery because I don't like it with flowers too much. But yeah, that's so wrong. Greenery is where flowers come from. Greenery is beautiful. Greenery is nature. There's a fellow that I know that buys flowers in here periodically. I know not to put greenery in with his flowers because he says, greenery offends me. Was he scared by a head of lettuce as a child? I don't know. However, I don't put any greenery in with his pieces because it offends him. Now you can keep adding as much as you'd like to this design, like I said, but keep it simple and keep it clean. But you'll notice how everything's being held up very well with that beautiful aluminum wire. And it's pretty as well, and that makes all the difference. But that is sturdy and safe, and it's not going to go anywhere when it's being delivered as well. So that's really important. Well, now that I've got the bubbles worked out of this presentation, I'll carry on to something else. Back in the day, flowers actually did have a season around the world. You could only get tulips and daffodils in the spring. You could only get sunflowers in the fall, that sort of thing. And now we're seeing flowers available year-round, which is absolutely wonderful. But it's still important to celebrate the seasons as they come upon us. And I say that because so often we're worried about selling something specifically for Easter or specifically for Mother's Day. You don't have to worry so much about that because spring flowers already do that for us. They celebrate love and beauty and excitement in the spring, and that goes really hand in hand with those seasons as well. Look at the simple little arrangement I made here, done in one of the eco-essential containers from Smithers Oasis. They don't rot right away, so I know someone asked me, said, will it fall apart before it gets there? No, this is really hard. It feels like plastic, but it's not. It's plant-based material. It's beautiful. And done in with that, some beautiful daffodils to celebrate the spring, and a hyacinth down here as well, just for the smell of it, and the bells of Ireland, and of course those beautiful carnations right in the center, just to celebrate the season as well. Isn't it pretty? Just simple, simple, simple. Now with that, you can always do an upgrade because people love upgrades. Never say, can I add something to it? Because yeah, people like to add something to things, but how about an upgrade? Would you like an upgrade? An upgrade is glorious. Perhaps an upgrade could be something like an extra card, a larger card rather than the little enclosure cards. Put an extra card in with it. That's a nice upgrade. Or perhaps a gift card, even better. You could sell this for Easter and then say to the client, why don't we put a gift card in with it for $1 amount that they can come in and buy something lovely for Mother's Day. Use gift cards as often as you can. Stick them in every flower arrangement. Sell them to everyone that you possibly can because that will bring people in. So put that in there as well. The whole idea is to keep on offering upgrades until they say no, because they will say no eventually. Because you could offer things like teddy bears, which is pretty. That little teddy bear could go right in there and hug those flowers very nicely. You could get a bottle of wine, you could put chocolates, you could put a picture of me in there, whatever you want to do. So you can do all kinds of things just to upgrade that as much as you can, just to make that a bit more special for that particular person. Looking at this arrangement here, this is great for the person who's not sure that they like plants or that they want flowers. And we have so many of those that come in, don't we all? I don't know whether I should buy a plant or should I buy flowers. Well, buy both. Buy both. Stop your whining. It's not a good color on you. So in this case, I just used a few of the beautiful tropical plants kept in their pots. These are just in their pots. Again, done in one of the eco-essential containers, and split the container in half, basically by putting a liner inside of it and filling it with floral foam to put the fresh flowers on this side. In with it as well, I inserted a little trowel so they can have it in the garden, and some seeds also for the gardener and all of us. Who doesn't love some seeds? And if you're not sure whether they like seeds or not, but you want to put them in, get wildflower seeds, because everyone can throw wildflower seeds alongside of the highway somewhere as well. That's a fun thing to do. The kids love that idea. But just don't be afraid to do something a little different and show this. Show this on your social medias, show this on your websites, show this around as well, wherever you can. If you're not doing that now, get at it, because People love to see that sort of thing on Instagram. The only thing about that I find a little difficult for me is when I show something like this on Instagram and I've got those wonderful lily buds that are nice and tight for my clients that are going to open up beautifully. They're not Instagramming photographs right there, because you see all the ones on Instagram and Facebook and different ones. The flowers are all fully open. And when I have people come in and say, I want this, well, you don't want necessarily that, because those flowers are already past their prime. They're wide open, starting to drop. The tulips are all fully back open, and the lilies are wide open, and the roses are wide open. Beautiful, beautiful. But we've left them out longer so that they can open up, which isn't really the best thing to do if you're trying to sell a flower arrangement that's going to last a long time, is it? But in this case, these beautiful plants are glorious, and you could even, just if you wanted to, for Instagram or whatever, get a lily that's fully open and drop it in for the photograph. But when you send them out, make sure they're tight buds, and let people know that this will last for a very long time for them to enjoy. Upgrade until they say no. So let's have a look at a couple of new ideas in floral design that might be a little fun for you to do. Take this really simple arrangement. It's very pretty, just done with the mums and the beautiful irises, that sort of thing. And in this, I put some pussy willows and made a nest right on the top. That nest is so simple. If you've not made nests before, this is how you do it. Just take some Spanish moss, that tillandsia, stretch it out, give it a twist, 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 so it holds together, and then wrap it around your hand, wrap it around your fingers, and tuck it in the center. Instant nest. It's that easy. Then you can add some feathers to it if you want to, or a couple little sticks, that sort of stuff, and instant nest. It's that simple. Now, once I've made that, you can either put some little chocolate eggs in. I can't because I eat them too fast. Or you can use the bullion wire that we have from Smithers Oasis. It comes in silver and gold. You can see it comes very, very fine. You can't probably see it too well. Maybe against my jacket you can see it. But I just pull off quite a length of this. I remember doing this at a design show once and it stuck. So thank goodness I had one already made at the back. I just pulled it out so it got stuck, so I couldn't do anything with it. So I just did this and this and this. Pretended. There was ladies in the front saying, I can't see it that at all. Can you see that wire? No, I can't see it. Can you? No, I can't see it. I just pretended, carried on. And when it was done, I just sort of turned around and come up with the product and said, oh, there it is. Oh, I can see it now. It wasn't magic. But what I've done with this, I've just taken a length of this, quite a length of this wire, and just ball it up in your hands. You can make little eggs. That's probably too big for that nest. Oh, a big pro in there. So I'm gonna make that a little smaller because you can. There, little egg. In you go. And you can put one or two in them, as much as you want. And if you want to secure it, of course, just use a bit of the floral adhesive that we have from Smithers Oasis, the cold adhesive. You can just dab a little bit on and put it right on there. This is glorious product. This is designed specifically for use with fresh cut flowers. It doesn't burn. You have to be patient with it because it takes a little while for it to get tacky so it'll hold in place. But once it's on there, it will hang on like a bad relationship, my darlings. So do it well and do it right. So once that's done, of course, when you send your flower arrangements out, make sure people know how to care for them. How to care for them. You know, I've driven by people's homes and seen a flower arrangement in their window, in a sunny window, and oh no, that's not gonna live. That won't live very long because it's in the heat. Treat your fresh flowers like you would fresh produce. Keep them cooler. You don't put a head of lettuce in the window, whether it's in a vase of water or not. You don't put it in the window. You keep it out of the direct sun, out of direct heat as much as you possibly can. Do that with flowers as well. Now these flowers are hungry and they're thirsty, so make sure when they get home, give them a good drink and have one yourself, top the container up, and use the flower food that is provided with the flowers. We always send out a little care instructions, whether it's for cut flowers or flower arrangements, that goes in with the flowers, in with a package of flower food as well. So it just shows it right in with the arrangement. So there's no excuse that you can't look after your fresh flowers, whether it's cut or fresh, because a lot of people don't know how to look after fresh flowers. And why would they? They don't get them as often as we do in the floral industry. So make sure they get that as well. Now I spoke about plants again, plants and flowers and flowers and plants, and they're lovely together. And again, look at this. This is a cool container. This again is one of the eco essentials. And I've taken a spider plant and removed it from its pot, wedged that down with the premium floral foam. a little pilea off to the side, a little cutting. Don't be afraid to take a little cuttings off your plants now and then. I like to do a little pruning, a little harvesting now and then. Doesn't hurt them, does them good. Some pussy willows right in here for length. And you know, when you have that height, that adds value, that adds perceived value, that height. It certainly does. We used to call that negative space when we have space that's between the flowers, and there's nothing there. But for something that's called negative space, it's got a lot of positivity to it as far as I'm concerned. Just by putting those right in there. Now I'm doing this backwards, so it's facing you. So if you don't like it, just smile and maybe fast forward on to the next one. Some of this beautiful golden colored solid aster. And people will say, in our shop, they'll say, that's goldenrod, isn't it? Well, yes, it is to some. To me, it's not. It's not goldenrod. It is solid aster. Goldenrod has no value to a lot of people. And a lot of fillers don't, which is a real shame, because they say it's just a filler. Well, yes, but fillers, if you've ever gone south and gone to some of the greenhouses or some of the places where the fillers are grown, and see greenhouses filled as far as you can see with statice, or filled as far as you can see with limonium or solid aster or whatever, there's a value there. And everything, like I said before, everything has a value. So I've just used that little bit of foliage, that little bit of leather leaf. Even the leather leaf is grown in fields and fields and fields that they have to care for. Glorious, glorious attention they pay to this product. You go right in there, just like that. And I'm going to put this little bit of statice right down the center, because I really want to keep that eye anchored down in here, just by putting those dark flowers down, right down to the bottom, because that leucadendron sort of draws your eye up. And if I have nothing down here, your eye's just going to sort of wander off and go somewhere else, which you don't want that to happen. So by putting that right down in there, there you go. And a couple of beautiful birds of paradise, these Strelitzia. And Strelitzias, these are a bit top heavy, so you have to be careful when they're going in designs. If you cut the stems on both sides so they've got a flat cut, when it goes in the floral foam, it can't twist around, especially when it's going out on delivery. So you're going to go right in there just like that. I'm going to cut this other one considerably shorter. And you are going to go right in there too. Go in there, that's the stuff. There you go, there. Do you ever talk to your flowers? I talk to all of them. All of them. Some things I say are terrible, terrible. But you know what? My mom always said, you know, speak to your plants and flowers. And whenever she planted something, she planted it in the garden, and she'd say, there, now you can grow or do the other thing. And oftentimes they did the other thing. They did the other thing. Do you know, I asked my mom's 99, and I asked her, I said, when the pandemic started, I said, how do we get through this, Mom? How do we get through this? This is such a rough thing. I don't understand. How will we make it through? And she said, Neville, she said, I grew up in the Depression. I lived through the Second World War. She also survived the death of her father and her mother and one of her sons and her husband. Lived through a bunch of civil strife around the world, moved to a country where nobody knew her. And gosh, for that matter, she even survived the dreadful fashion of the 80s. So, you know, she survived and went through an awful lot. And I said, how do you get through that? And she said, look for the good. Look for the good. She said, the bad, you can find the bad, just turn the TV on. You can always find bad somewhere. She said, it's easy to find. It sources you out. But look for the good, because there's good everywhere. And that, my darlings, is something we need to do more than ever now. Look for the good. Focus on the good as opposed to what's bad. You know, oh, I can't get ranunculus, I can't get whatever. But you can get this and you can get that. And that's a beautiful thing, you know. And look for the positive. Wherever you can, because it's certainly there. Sometimes we have to really root around to find it, but it certainly is there. And that's the beautiful thing about fresh flowers as well, is we can get that lesson of positivity and happiness and joy just by looking at those particular stems, those beautiful little stems, because all they want to do are bloom. So they're simple, a little tropical fun just to have today. Now, two other medias that are out here as well that are really kind of fun. This is the Fiber Floral, which is a new product. It's made with basalt rock, which is, it's got a really fun feel to it, almost like cotton, but it's made with plant fibers as well as this basalt. And you can see it's just It almost comes apart like insulation, but it's really great. It absorbs water well. When you cut it, if you can use a serrated knife, it's better, but it does hold water well, and I'll show you in a couple of arrangements as well that I've used it. The other is the Terra brick. Now, Terra brick is compressed plant material that is easily regrown, so we're not taking away from the environment. Somebody asked me the other day, they said, isn't that just compressed peat moss? It's not, because we don't use peat moss, because that is really a terrible thing. The peat is being depleted terribly in our world, so we don't use peat, but this is a plant-based material as well, and I'll show you that in a floral design. This is kind of fun. So I'm going to show you this one first, because it's right in front of me, with the Terra brick. I took the Terra brick and I put it directly in an eco-essential container, adding some of the leucadendron, one nice piece of foliage. I'll add a little bit of material here as well, but not a whole lot. The eucalyptus that goes in, that beautiful grevillea. This is really fun, isn't it? I love that. The texture on that is so sharp and interesting. Grevillea, some eucalyptus. You can see that holds the flowers very well. Now this media is a bit more expensive. It is a bit more expensive, but you know, when you go to a grocery store and you get things that are organically grown, you can pay more for them because you don't mind paying more to help with the environment. That's what we're doing as well. And so many of us in the floral industry are buying our flowers from socially and environmentally responsible farms. I certainly do, and that makes a lot of difference in the world. Every little bit helps, doesn't it? And if it costs a little more, it costs a little more. But you know what? For future generations of not only florists, but I think about humans, but I think about the other plants and animals in the world as well that are better off because of the efforts that companies like Smithers Oasis are doing. So just tuck that bit of status right in there beautifully. This actually mostly dry very nicely also, so that would dry up beautifully and just keep. And again, with this, I've added fresh flower food. I always fortify the water. Never call flower food preservative. Don't do that because it's not a preservative. You're not preserving those flowers. You're feeding them. So use the right terminology. We're not pickling flowers. We're going to let them still grow and continue to grow, but they'll last longer. And by having that terminology, people will understand a bit better that it's a food. It's a food for them. But by putting them in well, I always say we fortify the water before it goes in because people understand fortified water is a very good thing to have. And make sure they use it. Isn't that pretty? It's just simple and fun. Again, I put that foam directly right in, that media, directly in one of the eco-essential containers. I was out foraging the other day and I got this beautiful chunk of birch. Really watch when you're getting pieces from the forest that it's not got a lot of insects on it, especially this time of year because they're dormant and you bring them in the house and they come back and they wake up, so, oh, it's summer, it's nice and warm, and off they trot. Just be careful of that and sort of isolate them for a few days if you can in a plastic bag or away from everything to see if there's anything that's hitched a ride in with it. But in this case, there wasn't. I've left that for quite, I got that in the middle of the winter and it's been fine ever since. So just by adding that, it gives that feel of a fresh start, how things have sort of grown up through the forest and through the broken and dead branches, of course, in the woods and in the gardens. And that happens a lot as well. I think of my father when I see this type of design because I remember we stopped once to look for lady slipper orchids that are indigenous to this part of the world. And he said, you've got to come and see this. And we went in the woods and there was a tree that had fallen down, a trunk almost bigger than this. And the orchid had grown up around it. It was all wonky, the stem was all wonky and crooked, but it still flowered. And he said, see that? And I said, yep. And I couldn't have been 10 or 11. And he said, you know, boy, he said, there's going to be an awful lot in this world that's going to come crashing down on top of you and get in your way. He said, a lot of the things you can't get through. He said, but you're going to learn to get around them, just like this plant did. Learn to get around it so you can still shine and grow. And that was a really important lesson to me, and I'll never forget that. So I always think of my father when I make an arrangement using a lot of the pieces from the forest. And I took this beautiful fern, and I left this fern out so it could dry also. I love that, so it dried up just a little bit because we see that in the gardens and in the forest this time of year. Some bits and pieces of dried fern that didn't quite make it over the winter very well. And that beautiful Helleborus, beautiful Lenten rose. I think of my mother with those. Every flower should have a memory, and every flower does, you know? So when you can talk to your clients and say, is there a favorite flower or a favorite color, or did your mom, dad, or otherwise like to travel, and do they like lots of color? Ask all those questions, almost like the who, what, where, when, and why, to find out a bit more about them so you'll know exactly what would be the best choice of flowers for them. I think of my mum with Helleborus because she always told me that they had Helleborus in front of her house in the spring, and they would go and cut it at Christmas and during just now, this time of year, in full bloom in England. So there's that, some tulips, some pussy willows, a bit of hyacinth at the front just for the smell of it, and some ranunculus. Very simple, all done in that beautiful fiber floral. It's so pretty, that media is great stuff. But again, it's not the cheapest in the world, but you get what you pay for, don't you? Pretty pretty. Lots of pretties there, my darlings. Look at all that. Ha-ha. We've got everything from the lily grass. Come up here, my darlings. There, right up here. All of you. Don't be shy. Put that right in. And you'll notice I'm giving everything a fresh cut before it goes in the media. Always give your product a fresh cut, unless you're using the flower food that doesn't need a fresh cut. But I always say give it a fresh cut anyway. Then you're safe. And I've got this little bit of fern. Go in there, little ferny fern. That's right in there. Every time I talk like that, when I say, you go right in there, I think of that Bob Ross guy. Do you remember him? The big fuzzy hair that painted? That guy. Yeah, him. And he'd say, it's your world. If you want to put that happy little fern right in there, you just put that right in there. Personally, he was a good painter. I took his class, actually. Someone was teaching it. Good painter, but I think maybe he smoked a little more dope than he did paint. So, doesn't matter. He was a lot of fun, wasn't he? It's your world. You put that right in there. There you go. Just like that. So simple. Now, again, with the status, I love putting status in an arrangement for a couple of reasons. I love that brightness of the color, that intensity of the color. It's beautiful. It hangs on like a bad relationship, which is really important unless it's a bad relationship. And it dries beautifully also, so they've got that keepsake. And you can have a keepsake that goes along with an arrangement. Sometimes people will keep that bit forever and ever and ever. I think of a dear old soul that it was St. David's Day, and she was looking at different flowers outside. I was trying to give her a daffodil, and she said, no. She said, I want to talk to you about these hibiscus that are here outside your store. And she was looking at the hibiscus, and she said, when my husband was courting me during the Second World War in Italy, she said there was a hibiscus growing outside, and she said he would cut the flower every morning and bring me a hibiscus flower. She said, you know, they don't last that long. They only last a day. And I said, yes, I know that now. And she just stood there and had to look at those and thank me for that little memory. And so, of course, you know, I cut one off and gave it to her naturally. And fast forward a couple of years later, I got a letter from a lady in a different province. And she'd said that her mother had recently passed and she was going through her things. And in her Bible was this pressed hibiscus with a little note on it saying that she got it from me. And she said, and how much that meant to her to bring that wonderful memory back. Isn't that incredible, the power that flowers have? It's incredible. And sometimes we forget how powerful those flowers are that we hold in our hands, how powerful they are. Beautiful. This style of design, by mixing and matching the tropical flowers in with more temperate zone flowers, you get that real fun fusion mix of prettiness, don't you? You know, and you really do. That fun mix of prettiness. Just by putting those anthuriums in with the Helleborus and those longer lasting dianthus and, where'd you go? Dianthus, there it is. There it is. Dianthus and status. Now I've got these little echeveras, these little succulents that I would have, but I didn't. I would have just put those on a little skewer because that'll be fine. And you can just nestle those right in this arrangement. Right in this arrangement. So you've got them right in there. So you can see them. Where'd you go there? What are you doing falling out? But you can nestle that right in there as well. Because that way people can take that out and grow them afterwards. And they grow beautifully. Put a little leaf shine, just a little leaf shine. This is great stuff. Leaf shine. It's not only does it make your leaves shine, but it also allows them to survive a little bit longer as well. Just having that leaf. Right in there. There you go. one thing I forgot to mention as well that the fiber floral and terra brick are great for is plants. Now in this case, I used the terra brick beautifully in with these little Tillandsias, the air plants. I just took a brick of the terra brick, put it directly in the bottom of the bubble bowl here from Smith's Oasis, crumbled it up a little bit, and it has the look of soil. Putting a little moss in it, it holds the moisture so well. So these little guys that are moisture lovers, they like that humidity, they will survive beautifully in this bowl. Great little gift for an office, great little gift for someone who likes plants but isn't necessarily the best with them. Really easy care also. So don't forget to try those with plants as well. It's that simple. I don't know about you, but I get an awful lot of young folks in our shop, and I'm so thankful for them because they are the folks that will continue to be customers and will grow and inspire us to do more in the future in our floral industry. You know, Whitney said it when she said, I believe the children are the future, because they really are. And so when they come in and want to buy a $5 plant, want $50 worth of advice to come along with it, give it to them. Give them that advice, you know? Guide them in the right direction. Don't sell them something big for the sake of selling them something big because they didn't know any better. Sell them something that they can grow, something they can survive, survive and thrive. I remember there was a kid in here a while ago, months and months ago, and he wanted to buy a couple of plants, and I said, yeah, try these. You know, if you've not really gotten into plants much, try these little guys. They're really easy to care for. Okay. And I said, listen, why don't you get an orchid plant? And I happen to have some that I cut the flowers off and use them in flower arrangements, a couple of the Phalaenopsis. And he said, oh, I can't grow an orchid. I said, yeah, you can. Take what's home. Take it. It's on me. Take it. Well, he did. And probably 6 months or 6 months later, at least, it was a long time, this kid came in the store and he was so excited. It bloomed, my orchid bloomed. He was all excited. And I said, did it? Great. Who are you? I had no idea who he was. I'd totally forgotten. And he said, you gave me this plant. He said, now I'm an orchid expert. I tell everybody how to care for the orchids because I know how and I can bring them into flower. So if anyone has an orchid plant that won't flower, he said, they bring it over to me and I bring it back into flower for them. Isn't it brilliant? I think it's brilliant because something as simple as the Phalaenopsis, the butterfly orchids or moth orchids as we know them as well, those are really a beginner's orchid plant, which is so much fun, and that's what you should do. So treat those children like they're your own, and well, maybe not, but treat them really well, and they will come back and be your customers for years. A lot of my best customers started out as children in my store 30 years ago, and I've done their weddings, I've done all sorts of things for them through the years, and they remember me from when they were children, and I would give them a flower to give to their mom or whatever. So treat those children well. When we talk about being more profitable, plant that seed for the future, because that's an important thing. You know, the now is now. You know, you got to plan for the future. And the older I get, the more I wish I had planned a little bit more for my future. However, you know, that's a whole different therapy session. But we plan for the future with our businesses and plant those seeds and let those younger generations that want to come up and buy flowers know that this is the place to buy them in a proper flower shop. Absolutely. Now, that said, I want to show you a fun arrangement just to finish off here that I was really fortunate. I've been very fortunate to work with some of the best designers in the world in my career. And one of the folks I got to work with was Deborah Della Flor, 1,000 years ago. I think I still had hair, for heaven's sake. Anyway, Deborah was doing this piece on stage, and I was blown away by it, by how she'd taken something simple like tree fern and made it into these topiaries. Isn't it cool? I love it. Of all the things I've done over the years, this has got to be one of my top 10 most favorite things to do, just for a fun and exciting piece. And it's so simple. And you want to talk about moneymaker and profitable? This is it, kids. Watch this. Take a bunch of tree fern. You know, for those of us in the industry know that this doesn't cost a lot of money. It has a value, of course, but it's not a massive amount of money. You know, it certainly isn't as expensive as a dozen roses that you would make a topiary. So you just take your tree fern and put it so the heads are all together, and you can take one bunch, half bunch, two bunch, three bunch, whatever you want, as big as you want, and you'll get used to what you're doing as you carry along with it. Just practice a couple of times. A couple of times will be plenty, by the way. You'll get it real quick. Once that's done, you tie it very tight at the top. So you've got that made. It's made, right? That's that simple. Once it's made, You can bind it, and I bound this in this case with the rustic wire from Smithers Oasis, but you could use bind wire, you could use wire, you could use aluminum, you could use ribbon, doesn't matter, you could wrap it in moss, I don't care, it's your party. So do all sorts of things. And once that's done, take your cutters and snip and trim it all around. Some people do like it this natural feel. Listen, again, it's your party. If that's what you want, go right ahead. But I like to trim them a bit because the ends get a little dry quicker, and this way it holds it in place, holds that moisture in place, and they don't tend to dry up as much. This is a fern that a lot of people don't want in their homes because it drops so much. So once you've done this and trimmed it or not trimmed it, spray it down really well with Crowning Glory or the leaf shine, and that will add a fixative on the top of it to hold it in place. Once that's done, bound and put in your design, which this is loads of fun, I've simply glued the Craspedia right on here using the cold floral adhesive that we have from Smithers Oasis. Just glued that right in. That's not going to go anywhere at all. And you know, just suit yourself. Do whatever you want with these. You can put ribbons on them, stick a butterfly on top, a bird, doesn't matter. I've taken water tubes to small glass tubes, or plastic tubes actually, and push those directly in with the flower in them, so it just makes that floral effect as well. You can do all sorts of things, have these short or tall, put each individual ones in clay pots to use for weddings. For weddings, my darlings, imagine for weddings how glorious that is. And you can have them quite short, so you can almost like make a hedge as well with them. So on a variance of height of these particular trees. They're brilliant, aren't they? Brilliant. So have some fun with your floral design as much as you can and enjoy what you do. Enjoy what you do. What we get to do is a blessing. You know, I was looking outside as I was doing this, and we've gone from sunshine to rain, and then it snowed a little bit, and then it was freezing rain, now the sun's back out. So, you know, and I'm in here with these beautiful flowers. I'm very fortunate that I get to do this on a daily basis. Whether it's snowing or pandemic or whatever, I can still enjoy the beauty of flowers. And when I get to share love through the beauty of flowers, that's a glorious thing. So I hope you enjoyed what I've talked about today. I hope you can take some lessons back with you that will make you a little more profitable. The takeaways, of course, are be honest with your clients, have time to spend with them, don't be afraid to try something a bit different, and take some of the tips and tricks that I've shown you today and make them your own. You don't have to copy everything bit by bit by bit. These aren't recipes, these are ideas. And that's the most important thing. Share the ideas with each other, and you'll have a much more profitable and better season ahead. Here's to better days ahead for all of us. Stay well, stay safe, and share love through the beauty of flowers. Hey, listen, I'll be hanging around for a bit as well. So if you have any questions or anything, just send them on in. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.